store's been consistently almost doubling every year for the last 5 years. All in between between the slaughter floor, the cut floor, and the storefront, we're just over 300. There's another shop that was built the same time that we built this one. It's a full USDA with a USDA cut and wrap, and they ended up at $640 a square foot. If you paid somebody to come in and do this, it would probably be 4 times the amount. Literally, the sales of the store are almost 10 times what they were 4 years ago. So like last year, we finished 130 pigs that went through the store. This year, we'll probably be close to 70 or 80 cattle total through the store for retail. They didn't understand where USDA would stop and New York State Ag and Markets takes over. So they ended up all coming here one day. They showed up unannounced because somebody had told them that we were cutting already.
If somebody out there is thinking, I want to do on-farm processing, would you recommend that they do it all at once and just go do it all, or start kind of slowly, kind of like how you did? So you are Greg.
Yep.
And this is Rise N Swine Farm.
Yep.
I love that name. Absolutely love it. It is very fitting. So you have a really cool property here. I mean, it's beautiful. It's kind of rolling hill. You said that when you bought it, it sat vacant for 60 years.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you've got going on here.
So pretty much we have a little over 100 acres. It's all regenerative forest-based model. Our neighbor ended up wanting to rent it out, and we ended up working a deal with her so we could rent it and then start farming it. We've been at this location roughly 9 years. We had to come in, obviously, you had to clear everything out, all the fencing, water lines, roadways, everything was all from scratch. This field that we're standing in was probably 10 or 12 feet tall, all brush. Obviously, it sat vacant for about 60 years. So yeah, so we brought in some animals, brought some machinery in, kind of cleaned up, put all the fences in. We have roughly 7,500 feet of water line in the ground off of a gravity-fed system. We have access to water in just about every 200 square feet on the farm. We can hit water.
So before you started like putting animals on here, you knew what you wanted to do with it?
Yeah, we had a pretty good rough idea. We always had raised pigs. Okay. And then we had got some chickens when we had moved here. And then when we leased this, we're like, well, if we're gonna lease it, we need to find a way to let it make some money for us. So then we brought on the cattle. We've gotten it to the point now where we're pretty happy with where the pastures are, where the forest is with the pigs. Now we can fine tune how we really want to have it.
So tell me a little bit more about your cows then. So you've got Highlands, it looks like, and maybe some Herefords?
Yeah, so these are the last of the Scottish Highlands that we have. And we started with those just because they're less picky of a grazer. And the pastures were very subpar at that point. So we brought them on. They'll even eat some brush, some more woody plants and stuff like that. So we brought those on, and then we ended up getting some Herefords a few years ago, and we crossbred them just to try and get to where we wanted to go. So these are the last of the calves that we'll have coming out of these guys.
What were you trying to get with that Hereford cross?
Just a little more ruggedness out of the Hereford. And a lot of these guys you'll see, like in the wintertime, they'll have the long hair on them, like a Highland. So they'll look like a Hereford, but they have the long Highland hair on them.
Okay, I do see that, like on their back and on their poll, the top of their head.
Yeah, like on the front of their heads and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're going in that direction. But on the other part of the operation, we have a farm store, a butcher shop, and everything else. And that's grown so fast that we can't keep up with it on this end. So we ended up partnering with another farm down about 5 minutes from here.
Okay.
And we buy our grass fed from them. And then my uncle has another farm about 20 minutes from here, about 1,500 acre farm. And that's where we get our grain fed beef from.
Okay.
So we offer both in the store.
Okay.
We will finish these out, and these will be for our custom bulk orders. And then all the retail stuff we bring in.
These are calves. Are you calving then? Do you have moms
Yeah,
too?
so there's three cows that we have left. This red one with his head down here is Walt. He was a bull. That's our last one. And then we're just gonna change around what we're doing. So we're gonna end up buying in feeders to grass feed. It's just the cow-calf operation in New York is very hard with the winters that we have. So we're feeding hay for 5.5 to 6 months. And just the expense and the turnaround time, it's just not there. Feeder calves are extremely high right now up here by us, but
expensive, you mean?
Expensive, yeah. Okay. Like there's 10-day-old calves that are going through the auction for $800, $900.
Oh my gosh, that's expensive.
Yeah, it's super expensive right now.
Wow.
So that's why we hung on to these. These were originally we were going to get rid of them.
Okay.
Then we're like, well, the pricing is so high right now, we're just going to hang on to them for now.
So you've got 100 acres.
Yep.
You are going to start doing just finishing calves.
Yep.
What really was it that made that switch? Was it the butcher shop or just the winters?
It's more
did
of the
you decide to
the
do that?
time frame. So these guys, like these are almost 3 years to finish out. So our turnaround time just needs to be a little bit quicker. So if I can
Because
bring,
of your butcher shop?
yeah, just
Okay.
because of the supply that we need for that. It's not crazy high, like it's not like Will Harris volume, but
Right.
for us, it's a lot for what we're raising.
So then, speaking of numbers, how many calves are you wanting to raise a year paired with how much are you selling out of your butcher shop?
So like last year we finished 130 pigs that went through the store. This year we'll probably be close to 70 or 80 cattle total through the store for retail. So,
And how many calves are you buying?
well, we'll end up having to buy those in next
All
year.
70.
Yeah, so we'll
Okay.
buy them in, pretty much try to feed them out on our own. And then we'll still, the grain fed and stuff, we'll still bring that into the store.
Okay.
But all the grass fed portion that we have, those will be brought in as feeders.
So you're really working on transitioning your farm so that all of the grass-fed product that you have in your farm store comes from animals that are
Yeah,
finished.
it always
on your
has
farm.
been,
Okay.
but now the volume is so high.
Yeah.
We had to bring in somebody else, and that was kind of a plus of having the butcher shop, so we get to see everybody else's stuff that we cut for.
Yeah.
So we really took the best of the best and approached him, and
Okay.
he had actually extra cows on this year anyways, so we ended up buying all those. We're gonna run those through the shop.
I'm going to ask you more about the shop when we go see
Yeah.
it here in a little bit. So tell me a little bit more about your farming operation then. So you've got your cows. Are you moving them daily? I see we've
Yep.
got polywire here.
Yep, so these
Okay.
these just moved this morning, so they've been in this area for
From
about
here to over here?
Yeah, so they were
Okay.
in here for about, they've only been in there for about 2 or 3 hours. And then we just use a single poly wire down the middle, and then we'll hopscotch down through. Those 4 down there are actually for the meat birds, so we'll raise meat chickens, but we haven't started yet because we have to process those ourselves this year. The guy that was doing them is building a new facility, but he's not quite ready yet, so we'll end up doing our own just to try and beat the winter. So yeah, these guys move every day, and we got some layers down there over the hill that are following these guys. We actually are changing this. This pasture is going to be a little different in 5 or 10 years. Down the center divider line here, we planted a bunch of chestnut trees.
Oh.
So you can see
Is that
one
what
right
this
here. That's
stake
what
is?
these are right here.
Okay.
So these are just starting. So we're going to have chestnuts there. And then over the hill, you'll see there's a bunch of hedgerows that are kind of started.
Okay.
So we've planted mulberries and hickories in a rotating staggered line. And eventually what we're gonna do is the pigs will be out onto this pasture. So the pigs that we have right now are in the woods and in the orchards, and then they'll be out here for part of it.
So why hickory trees?
Just for the nut production
Okay.
that comes out of them. And we have a bunch of white oak that we planted. We're going really for the mast crop, simply to lower the feed input.
Gotcha.
For what we have. Feed right now is like $4.60 a ton, I think, up in New York. So we're trying to drive that price down. Yeah, you can see all the bird, the tree swallows and stuff. So the whole pasture is lined with bird boxes.
Oh, you have bird boxes around
Yeah.
here. Ooh, that's a good idea.
So they're all filled with tree swallows. And then I don't know who it was maybe Greg Judy or somebody, but they say an adult pair of tree swallows will consume 80,000 flies a day.
Wow.
And we have roughly 45 boxes just on this pasture. And we have more that we just had built, and we're going to do another 50 over the winter.
That's awesome.
So there's really no fly pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I know
between
it's
this
cool this
and
morning.
Between that and the layers
Yeah.
coming behind the cows.
Like it's cool this morning, but like it was so hot last week. And I mean, I don't see one single fly. Whoa, that was close. It is scoping me out.
See if you got any flies on your camera.
Before we go see the pigs, I'm curious. So I just saw it right there. She touched the wire with her
Yeah.
horns. Do you have a problem with their horns and the poly wire at all?
No. So
Okay.
they won't actually feel that with
Right.
their horn. But we shut the fence off when we came in here. But
Right.
these guys, you could honestly leave the fence off for a week and they won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's got a big perimeter fence anyways, but they're so used to moving every day.
There's no need for them to go anywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, so we just kind of offset this wire so we can keep our hedgerow for the trees so they don't have access because they would eat those trees.
They will.
So,
They're so pretty.
what are you doing, girls? So
Is this a bull?
Yeah, that's Walt. That's our bull. How you doing, bud?
He's a good size.
He's probably a third of the size of the last bull we had.
Really?
So he was a bottle baby. He actually got stepped on day 2 when we were on vacation.
Oh.
So they ended up they casted his back leg.
Oh.
So he was a bottle calf, and then he just kind of hung around. So now.
Does he breed?
Yeah, but he's not. My wife said he's not allowed to ever leave. So.
He's not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
He'll just be here forever.
He'll always be here forever. So, but he's good.
I always forget like how short the Highlands are because their horns are so big and their heads are so blocky. You think that they're a huge
big
animal.
Yeah.
And of course, they're still a big animal, but they aren't as big as. I mean, I grew up with Angus.
Yeah.
Like, they aren't as big as a big Angus bull. You know?
No, your typical hanging weights are quite a bit lower. They're 500, 150 pounds.
Really?
Somewhere around there. Where the grass fed that we're breaking in now is, there's one in the cooler down there we can look at, but it's almost 900 pounds. And those are red Angus, and then Jersey Cross.
Wow.
But they are quite a bit bigger, yeah.
Cows are my favorite. I could just hang out with cows all day.
They got the life.
They
they've packed this down already that looked like that. So they're putting all that back in. You know, whatever they don't eat, they're packing back down.
I love it.
But it's simple. Like our chores are 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Is really what we're,
Pretty easy.
I have an off-farm job. It takes a lot of time, so we have to make this super efficient on the back end. You know?
Your wife was talking about that off camera. So
Yeah.
do you want to talk about your off-farm job?
Yeah, so my day job is a lineman for an electric company. Then we run the farm, and then we needed something else to do, so now we run the butcher shop also. So,
That's a
but
lot
the butcher
of time.
shop feeds the store front, which is really what the big lack was there, of access to processing. So that it all kind of feeds into each other. It's a necessary evil.
So if you have an off-farm job that keeps you really busy, why start a farm?
Just something to do. Really, we've always raised pigs for ourselves, and then we ended up coming here and we're like, well, if we're gonna rent all this ground, we got to make some money. So we got cows, and then we did chickens, and everything's been growing. The store's been consistently almost doubling every year.
Wow.
For the last 5 years. It's a good thing, people know the products that they're getting. They know how we process.
Yeah.
And we have full control over all of that. They all think they're gonna get fed, that's their problem.
Okay, so you're changing up the way you do your cows a little bit, or your cattle, I should say, not just cows. Tell me about your pigs. We're here with your pigs now. I see a lot of sows.
Yeah, so this is one of the sow sets that we have. There's some piglets in here. They're ready to farrow pretty much anytime. So these guys will stall out here in this spot. So we just drove past the spot that we have. So like 2 days before we move them, we'll go and back seed it, let them pack that in, then they'll move on. Just we knew they were going to have piglets here, so we gave them a little bit bigger of an area. This is actually an old turkey shelter that the girl that used to work here had.
Oh yeah.
So we just kind of dragged this in here to give them a dry space. So these are Berkshire Ip crosses.
A Berkshire what?
Berkshire Ip.
What's
so
an
Ip is
okay, an IPP. Yeah.
I call them Ips.
No, that's fine. I just was like, I don't think I've heard of that one yet.
So that's what these are crossed with, and then we have a Duroc boar, a heritage breed Duroc boar that we got from Cliff Davis down in Tennessee, and that's what these are all bred with. So we're going. These guys are fairly good right now, but we want to put a little more intermuscular fat into them. And Cliff's lines and the Duroc line that he has is really good for doing that. Primarily more because of the product we want to change a little bit through the shop to go a little more charcuterie based. We got to change that on the back end first before you can't start with real lean pork up here. So
how many sows do you have here?
we have 7 in here, and then typically the feeders that we run are in the same setup. So it's just a single wire on the inside and the netting on the outside is dead.
So it's like a physical barrier versus the electrical barrier.
Yeah, visible barrier. And that's pretty much how we run them. So we'll run groups of 30 in a 100 by 100 area, and they're moving every week. So the feeders that we have, I have a bulk feeder, and we'll fill that up once a week or whatever they need it, and then that's it. Then we move on, back seed the same way we do with the sows, and then we'll move them right on.
Yeah.
So
how many pigs did you say you're finishing a year?
We did 130 last year.
Wow.
With the storefront and stuff like that, in 15 years, we've never done farmers markets, ever. We've never started there. We never even have gone to them. So everything we've done, everything we sell is all on farm.
And are you shipping any?
No.
Okay.
It's local. It's within 30 miles, but we just started doing that this year. But everything else we do is all in-store sales. To make that next step, where we want to go, they've started to go to markets. So they're feeling some out this year, and then next year we'll make that jump and go hit and start taking part of that market.
To the farmers market?
Yep, we'll go to the
Okay.
farmers markets, get involved with those, and then hopefully up our sales to the next where we want to
That's
go.
interesting. That is basically backwards
It
from
is.
how everybody else starts. They go to a farmer's market and then they build their customer base and then they go just off farm sales.
Yeah.
What is driving you to go to the farmer's
So
markets?
the way I look at it is if I was going to go to a farmer's market and I'm selling all this and I increase my sales drastically, the back end of the operation can't handle it. So our infrastructure is set up so we can finish 300, 400 pigs. This is already all done and built. So now when those sales start increasing, we can slowly just add on, and we're already set back here. So to be able to do the increase in the sales and the infrastructure side, it's hard to do both at the same time. And that was the point of the butcher shop. Ended up building a store because we had nowhere to really sell out of. We were selling out of our garage, and we wanted somewhere nicer for the customers to come. So we looked at renting a few places, but for the amount of rent versus the time, we ended up building the storefront over a winter. And then the next year, they're like, well, we don't have access to the amount of processing we need. So we're like, oh, we'll put our own shop in. So we built the butcher shop. And then we're like, okay, now we can't get USDA slaughter. So we added that on to the following year.
Okay.
So it's been a 3-year long run of building. And this year we're kind of getting back to how we want to have it.
Yeah,
So.
and we're going to go see that probably next.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, we
okay,
can
so
go
we'll go
down
see
there.
that next. This is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we made it to the shop part.
Yep.
And we're in your kill floor.
So this is the slaughter floor side of the building. The holding pens are in here. And then this is what we would consider the knock box.
Okay, so you're holding pins. Ah, okay.
Yeah, so we actually go back to trailers right in
Yep.
and unload them right out of there. So this is a knock box. This is what we have. So we built this, kind of modeled it after like the Temple Grandin style. So this will slide open. And then this in here is what will slide back over the head of the animal.
Oh, nice.
And then there's a plate that's getting beefed up, let's say.
Okay.
There's a plate that comes down and holds the head in place. Oh. And then their head sits right here. So we can just slide this back a little bit, reach in and stun them. So then
how does this work with, do you process your animals that have horns?
The horns that we'll do outside.
Okay.
So we'll do those out there. So then this whole side of this thing lifts up. And we'll chain them up with the chain, bring them up, bleed them out, and then we'll lay them in here. This is a skinning cradle. So then we'll skin them out in here, weigh them. They'll go down through the rail system, and then they'll go into the large hanging cooler.
Through that door.
In there. Yep.
Wow.
So portion of this building was paid for by a private grant that we ended up getting.
Wow.
And then we ended up paying for the rest of it. And then from that point, typically we'll like to hang them at least 2 to 3 weeks. So a lot of shops are 5 to 7 days, depending on the fat coverage on the animal. And we like to hang ours a little bit longer.
Why is that?
Just for the tenderness in the meat and stuff like that. It gives the enzymes a chance to start breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring them out. We'll quarter them down. So we'll go from the high rail, and then we'll go down to the low rail. And they get quartered at that point, which the cooler that's in there, we can look in there.
Sure.
That stuff's all prepped, ready to go for this week to cut. So we'll come down through there, and then they roll across to this other part of the building.
So they come in this
So
way.
they come in through this rail here. This is all of our the low rail system. So we'll come through, and then we'll hang them up here in the cooler.
Can we go in here and look at
Yeah.
them?
Yep. So these are all prepped and ready to go for this week. Some of these are USDA carcasses. Some of these are custom.
They look good.
So those ones over there are grass-fed, and then these ones are grain-fed.
Okay, so
And
you
you
keep
can
them
tell
separate.
the difference just by the color of the fat.
Okay, go over that with me.
Well, here.
Oh, it's very yellow.
Yep. So the difference in the fat you can see just by the difference in the yellow, especially on the hindquarters. You can tell it a lot better.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you get a lot more yellow.
Compared
This is
to
a very bright white fat,
Yeah.
and that's the difference you can tell between grain and grass
What
fed.
difference other than visual does that give you? Is that like a big taste difference? Is it like an emulsified difference?
We do as much value adding as possible for everything that goes through the shop. So that'll render down at a much lower temperature. Then we make lard bars. So we render all of our lard, leaf lard separately.
So you're saying
our tallow.
it's harder to render.
This is a little bit harder of a
It's
fat.
harder to render the grass-fed
Yeah, it's
versus
just a
the grain-fed.
higher temperature.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so these are all prepped, ready to go, and then we'll roll a quarter out at a time. It just saves us a little time.
Yeah.
Going from halves down to quarters. You might want your sunglasses back, huh?
Oh wow, that is bright. Nice.
So I don't know if that'll mess your.
Nope, you're good.
thing up.
Nice LED lighting in here.
So this is essentially the cut floor that we built originally. So we have the hanging cooler in there where we'll age them down, and then they'll come out, and we'll start breaking them down through the saw. So they'll go from the saw onto the table. That's the bigger grinder that's over there. So we'll grind out what we need.
This is a grinder?
That's a grinder, yeah.
Holy cannoli.
55 pounds a minute. We can be able to run through that grinder. So those are the plates for it.
Yeah.
So we'll run from the grinder. That's the steam kettle that we use. So that's what we render all of our lard.
Okay.
We make bone broth, stocks, soups, all that kind of stuff. And then from this point, we'll come over, they'll start packaging here, double chamber vac. So we actually ended up getting that as a trial. There's a local company that ended up making that, and they brought it here for us to trial it.
Very cool.
And then we ended up buying it afterwards. And then this will be like the sausage. They make all the sausage over here. Stuffed beef chubs for the ground beef. And then from that point, if there's stuff that needs to be smoked, we make all of our own brine. We do all of our own brining and smoking for in the store. We have a wood smoker, so we do everything a little bit old school. So all the stuff going through in the shop will be, there's no nitrates in it, so it's a natural cure that we use.
We can see the smoker?
Yeah. So this is it's pretty much a wood smoker that we use. So it has an extra wood smoke generator on it that sits outside, and then it sits in here. So this is electric heat with a wood smoke.
Wow. So if you don't mind us, can we talk numbers for a second?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone gets curious when people start building their own inspected facility and have wonderful equipment like this. What, I know you said you got half of a grant, or a grant for half of it.
Yep. So this portion of the building we built prior, and we cash flowed all this, and then we ended up getting a grant for a portion of that building.
So you were cutting and packaging yourself first.
Yep.
So someone else was doing the slaughter.
Yep.
You'd bring the carcasses back here, and then you'd cut them up. What kind of, you said you cash flowed that. Ballpark, if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
What figure does it cost to have this?
So this building, between the store front and this building, we ended up at around $130 a square foot. So we did everything. We did the site work, the electric, utilities, the framing, the concrete, everything. We built everything out of this building. That building over there, because there was like a time constraint with the grant, we ended up having a company shell that building out.
Yeah.
That building there was just over $200,000 for that side. And this side was probably around $150,000 total.
That's not as much as I was thinking it would be. I mean, you see, does that include the equipment, or is that just
everything.
That's everything?
That's as you see it right now.
Because when I see these things, I'm like, okay, that's probably $500,000 right there. And you're saying it was like 150.
150 for this building, yeah.
Yeah.
So total, all in between between the slaughter floor, the cut floor, and the storefront, we're just over 300.
Wow.
And then this side of the building is a bakery. So there's a girl that rents Savage Wheat Project. So she bakes all no sugar, all natural ingredients, organic flour. So we rent that half of the building out, and then we utilize this part of the building.
Wow.
So
how does that translate into your cash flow? Like, how does that help your net income at the end of the day?
It's a consistent number that's there every month. You know, it's not a super high rent. There's another shop that was built the same time that we built this one. It's a full USDA with a USDA cut and wrap. They ended up at $640 a square foot. That was the last number that we had heard, and it's 11,000 square foot building. So,
why is that one so much more than this one? Because are you including your labor in that?
No.
Okay.
No, but it's sweat equity.
Right. I mean, this is your property, right? Like, this is your farm, your equipment, your building.
So everybody else that came in to help all got paid. I was the only one that didn't take any money out of it, but this is what you end up with. You know what I mean? You save a lot of money. Like, legitimately, if you paid somebody to come in and do this, it would probably be 4 times the amount. It really would.
Yeah.
This would be, I would imagine this would be a $2 or $3 million place by the time it's done. If you paid somebody else to come in and do everything, you know what I mean?
And then can you walk me through how this side, both sides of your whole processing facility, how has that helped your cash flow on the front end with selling the product?
So having access to that processing now literally the sales of the store are almost 10 times what they were 4 years ago. It's crazy. Like it doubles almost every single year that we're here. There's a lot of people that come in here that see this and they're like, oh, I want to go build this. Cool, I hope you do. I hope 10 people build them within a mile of here because there's such a need for it. It takes a lot. There's a lot of lack of labor available. The guy that works for us now has 32 years experience. You know, the girl that wraps has 20 years. And we have a little project that's going on with the same people that we get that grant from. They're putting together a butcher training program. So it'll be partially through the state, a couple community colleges, and then this facility. So
That's
they'll
awesome.
end up coming through and training some workforce, doing some apprenticeships through various different shops, and just trying to drive in some people interested in that job.
Did you think that because you said that you're leasing this farm,
Yeah.
right? So you're leasing the land. When you started that lease, did you think that you were going to put a butcher shop on here and do
No.
on-farm processing and
No.
literally like grass to freezer?
Yeah,
all of it.
farrow to freezer, that's what we call it.
Yeah.
Right? So the storefront drove the need for more processing. So we ended up with that, and then the processing drove more of a slaughter facility. So then we pursued that way. The big thing is that we process for other people. So we do a lot of processing for other farms with retail stores that are within 15 minutes of here. It's just to keep the local food economy rolling, you know,
Yeah.
and there's a USDA processor. Yeah, he's 45 minutes from here, but they don't do pigs. Now you're driving 2.5, 3 hours one way just for processing. So that gives us the ability to help the local farms, and then a lot of the homestead people too. We like bringing them in. We'll do like some classes, show them, you know, the basics. And you don't like to not ever see them again, but when they're not showing up, that means they know what they're doing and they're doing it on their own, which is good. It's perfect. So.
I love that you're doing that, and with the classes, because there is a big demand for that.
Yeah.
People are asking for, I want to know how to cut and how to slaughter, cut, package, protect, value added.
Yep.
My own products, and the fact that you're able to do that here, that's awesome.
So when we have a homestead festival that we do in September, and we bring, there's probably 25, 30 different people coming this year. So it's everything from rabbit processing to chicken processing. We're going to try and run them through for a pig this year. They see the slaughter facility, blacksmithing, sawmills, a little bit of everything, like orchard growing, all that stuff. All those people come in. And last year was the first year that we did it, and we ended up with about 300 people. And we only really announced it like 2 weeks prior.
Wow.
So this year we're expecting quite a bit more.
Walk me through the New York regulations on processing.
So we're classified as USDA retail exempt. So what that is that our carcasses will go through a USDA slaughter facility. So they're slaughtered and stamped, which all those in there all have the stamps on them. And then we are licensed as a 20C, which is a New York State commercial kitchen license. So under that licensing, you can cut and wrap for value added or retail. That is kind of like the little area that we got through. We ended up adding other farms in on top of it. So there's other farms that have licensing on this facility as a 20C. So there's like some paperwork side of it that has to happen. Like the butcher has an S Corp, so they would end up hiring him for the day, and then they rent the facility to be able to do that. But they still are allowed to use the facility.
How did you figure out how to do all of that?
So there was one other farm that we knew that was doing it, and we ended up going there. It just happened to have like an open house that day. And he's like, oh, come in the back, you can see the cut floor. And I'm like, well, you're selling this all the restaurants and you're not USDA, how are you doing it? And he never really told us, but I'm like, there's gotta be something in there somewhere. So we ended up researching how he was licensed, and then you could find it in there. So we are inspected roughly probably 10 or 12 times a year by New York State Ag and Markets. And then we're also federally inspected once or twice a year by USDA.
Do you have to have a USDA inspector here when
No.
you're killing? You don't?
No.
Okay.
No, so there's nobody standing here watching us cut and wrap, because there is a restriction to that where it has to be sold inside the state.
Okay.
So I cannot cross state lines with it. We're local.
Yeah,
We're
you're not trying to do that.
We're not trying to take over the world here.
Yeah.
So we're trying to keep everything local, and we don't need that here. So.
Yeah.
I mean, even they, at some point when this first started, they were confused on it. They didn't understand where USDA would stop and New York State Ag and Markets takes over. So they ended up all coming here one day, unannounced. We literally just shut that door and was like, okay, you guys are gonna figure this out. Because we were already 4 months into emails and nobody knew what was going on. So once they were all here, we figured it out before they left. So.
Did you set up that unplanned meeting, or did they just like?
No, they showed up unannounced because somebody had told them that we were cutting already. So they were coming in to like take everything and whatever they were gonna do, So,
But you weren't.
no, the facility wasn't even done. The rail, we were actually still putting the rail in. Coolers weren't running. There was no equipment in here. They had gotten a bad information from somewhere.
Yeah.
But it actually worked out good.
Yeah.
They all ended up showing up.
So you said, you're keeping everything local. So you do have other products in here, but they're all from local farms.
Yep. Yeah, so we bring milk in from Burley Berries. They do a little micro creamery on farm. Savage Wheat Project, that's the girl that has a bakery that runs over there. Like I said, we do a lot of value-added stuff. So we're doing grass-fed tallow, regular grain-fed tallow, leaf lard. We actually started putting the tallow in some lard bars, so it's more like the stick of the butter. So it's a lot more convenient for people to use.
I love that idea.
Just about ease of use.
Yeah.
And then this is all of our pork that we raise here. We do some grain-fed beef from my uncle, and then we do some grass-fed beef. And then
so you have it labeled,
yep.
grain-fed
so it's all
here,
broke out.
grass-fed
Yeah,
here.
so all of our grass-fed has green stickers on it, and then the regular beef. So
talk to me a little bit about your value added. You said that you're changing up your pig genetics to kind of get into some charcuterie.
Yep.
You also mentioned that all of your spices and stuff are grown locally.
Yep. So everything for our sausage is all as clean as we can make it. All of our snack sticks that we do actually a lot of value-added stuff like meatballs and meatloaves, beef bacon. We sell quite a bit of beef bacon. We actually do organ meat in with ground, so it's a 70-30 mix. So we do liver and heart in with a regular ground beef, and we sell actually a lot of that.
Why do you do that?
It was a customer thing. So the primal diet, or whatever they call it, caveman diet, people can't eat the liver on their own, so they're like, oh, can you? Finally, enough people bugged us to do it.
That's a great idea.
So we tried it, and you honestly don't even know what's even in there.
That's awesome.
So we sell a lot of that, actually. And we do patties and all the regular typical cuts that you would get.
Yeah.
All of our own sausage. Like I said, we do all of our own smoking in-house, natural cure, so there's no sodium nitrates in it.
So why are you so passionate about like the natural side of it, growing the ingredients locally? Where did that passion come from?
It was just we spend a lot of extra time raising our animals in the cleanest way possible. So if you would go to a typical processor, if a person raises theirs in a barn or ours are out in the woods, and you get the same seasoning, you get the same junk in the sausage mixes, and you can't really tell the difference. That's how we decided to differentiate ourselves a little bit and keep an ultra clean product, source everything local. It keeps the local economy going, just to have a higher end product, is really what we're looking for.
Is that why you're looking to get into the charcuterie also?
Yeah, it's just a little more value added. We've always kind of tried it, and now we'll be able to have the numbers to be able to do that. And it's a long-term thing, right? I mean, you're looking 12 to 18 months for some end products that are coming out of that. It's got to start at some point.
Yeah.
So we get in with dabble with that a little bit. Yeah, so this is a storefront, and then so Elisabeth, my wife, pretty much manages this. We have another girl, Carrie, that works here. She kind of runs the store like on the day-to-day on the basis. A lot of maple syrup, bread. We do our own honey. We have a girl that does the beekeeping for us. So we have our own hives. Like I said, some local coffee, some craft, stuff like that. Kind of just make it a little bit more of a one-stop shop instead of just being just for strictly meat.
I love that. And before we go, I just want to ask like an advice question. If somebody out there is thinking, I want to do on-farm processing, would you recommend that they do it all at once and just go do it all, or start kind of slowly, kind of like how you did?
I would do it step by step. And to be completely honest with you, if I did it over again, I wouldn't do it for outside people. That was the big business model that we started with, but it's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
Like, it's overwhelming in the beginning, where if you can just get in and start for yourself and slowly build up, and then maybe bring a few more customers in and bring it in. But when you come in and there's like just slamming work, and we started about the worst time. We started in like September, so you start into busy season.
Yeah.
And there's just so many small little intricacies to work out.
All right, well, thank you again.
Yep.
I appreciate you showing me around. This place is awesome. I'm gonna get some beef before I go, especially some of that ground.
Yeah.
We like to eat mostly carnivore. Putting organ meat in our diet has been difficult, so that's a great idea. We're gonna use that. But if there's anybody who wants to know how to find you, anything else, we'll put all of your links in the description below, so they can take a look at that. Just thanks for having me out. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for stopping.
Thanks. So everybody knows how hard it is to get processing around the whole country. And when you've got somebody who can really walk you through the licensing, the processing, the processes that it takes to get into this. It's very, very valuable. I love that he's been able to not just capitalize on his ability to do it, but then adding it to the community and teaching people and sharing that knowledge and passing it on. Like he said, you hate when they don't come around anymore, but then you know that they're off doing their own, that they're off doing it on their own and they're confident with it. I absolutely love that. Being here has been amazing. It's beautiful. Thank you guys for coming along with this tour. I really appreciate it. We will see you at the next one.